Today we're going to be talking about single versus double degrees. Such an interesting question because it's very tempting to think that a double degree, because there's so much more to it, might give you more opportunity later in life, but it's not necessarily true. By the end of this video, we will have given you a method that you can use to decide whether a single or a double degree is best for you, and that's going to be extremely useful into the future. You ready?
How good is this?
Yeah, it's awesome.
G'day and welcome to Choosing Your Uni. I'm Rob Malicki and today we're at Banka Station, which is just like this little stop-off point between Tennant Creek, in fact between Alice Springs and Darwin. It's on the big run north up the middle of Australia through the Stuart Highway. Let's start by talking about what are single versus double degrees as we make our way up to Lookout here at Banka. A single degree, essentially 3-year course, we're talking undergraduate level of course, where you do full-time subjects over those 3 years and you end up with 1 degree. So typically that would be something like a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. There are millions of different single degrees that you can do at universities all over the country. Then a double degree essentially allows you to do 2 degrees in the space of 5 years. 5 years. And so the way that works is that they consider that like that first year of subjects that you do in your first degree sort of counts towards the requirements of that second degree. So in the space of 5 years, 2 degrees. Sounds pretty awesome, right? That's the advantage of a double degree, because by the name of it, you would think that 2 is better than 1, right? So surely that must improve your job prospects. And certainly that's true in the sense that because you've done more studies, you've been exposed to a lot more knowledge, a lot more information, and therefore you have more specialized skills. So remember, you know, people getting a Bachelor of Science, for example, like there's a lot of those. But once you add on an extra specialization, your skill set becomes that little bit more rare. So if you've got a Bachelor of Science with a Bachelor of Business, suddenly you're a little bit harder to find, if you know what I mean. So that gives you more prospects downstream because you're a little bit more unique. You've got a bit more of a story to tell. What's the disadvantage of it though? Well, 5 years instead of 3, that's certainly one of them. And then also, like, what happens if you change your mind? What happens if you get through 5 years and you decide, actually, I'm not gonna work in this at all? There's research out there that shows something like a third or 40%, 35-40% of graduates never use the degree that they study. That's certainly true for me. My first degree was a Bachelor of Science, and I've never worked in science. However, the skills that I learned in that degree, I've definitely used on a very regular basis. It might be 5 years. You might end up doing a whole lot of studies that aren't necessarily directly relevant to your future career, but they still give you good skills that later in life are going to serve you well. So it's that time versus knowledge trade-off, and that's something that you need to have a good old think about. Most useless gate, pretty much anywhere, I reckon. I still kind of feel like I'm obliged to close it. There we go. Now remember, you can always start with a single degree, and then as you're going, if there are things that you enjoy, you can upgrade to a double degree. So let's say you start with that Bachelor of Arts and you find something that you really enjoy. Maybe you do a couple of courses in management as part of that, just to diversify your degree, and you find that you really love business. Awesome. That means that you can now consider, for example, studying languages and doing business. Isn't that an amazing combination? So don't feel like when you first go into your degree, you need to choose a double degree option. There are some degrees where it's hard to get entry, it's restricted requirements in order for you to get into that degree to begin with, but unless that's the case, don't worry about it. You can always start with the single degree and then change to the double later on. To me, a double degree is a really great option if you already more or less know what you want to do in terms of a career and it requires a double degree. So if you want to go into something specialized like engineering or medicine or these kind of disciplines, having a double degree may actually be essential for you. So obviously, that's a good time for you to choose that double degree. However, if you do not know what you want to do later in life, totally normal, totally okay, I would strongly recommend just starting with a very general undergraduate degree, like an arts or science program, from which you can choose lots of different subjects, and then you can start to refine what you're interested in, and from there, consider adding on a second degree if you stumble across enough stuff that interests you. It's funny, you can see these ginormous road trains that kind of cut across the landscape here. Been hearing these things go past our caravan pretty much all night. There can be like up to 80 wheels on one of those big trucks on the 3 or 4 different trailers that they pull behind them. They do make a lot of noise, and you can hear them from quite a long way away too. Boom, there it goes. That's a big truck. This is a classic thing that you only really find in the outback these days, or at least pay attention to in the outback. This is a payphone. Do you guys even know what this thing is? Beep, 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 beep. It just feels so antiquated even though it's not that old. But seriously, like out here in the bush, this is how you communicate. There ain't no mobile reception out here. Let's now talk about single degrees. What's the disadvantage of a single degree? I guess it's a pretty obvious one in that there's a lot of people who graduate with single degrees these days. So for you to differentiate yourself when you're going looking for a job or trying to take your career a little bit further, having a single degree is more complicated unless you've done something very specialised, of course. What's the advantage though? Well, the advantage is firstly like a lot less pressure because you're not doing so many different subjects at once. When you're doing a double degree, you might be doing like law subjects at the same time as you're doing business or science or humanities or other things, which means you've got a lot of different competing topics that you're trying to address at the same time. That obviously takes a lot more cognitive load, meaning that you're probably going to be under a bit more stress and pressure. And if things don't go so well with you in the double degree, it's going to be costing you a lot more time. You know, saying 5 years is already a long time, but if you then run behind in that's a really long time. So a single degree gives you the advantage that there's going to be less pressure on you because you're going to be studying just one kind of type of subject, and then also you're going to get through a lot faster. I love the single degree concept because it does mean that you can choose many different topics and then taste your way through university to find out what you actually really love. Has this been helpful for you? Please like this video, and if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments because I always get back to people who write to my comments and I'd love to help you out. One thing that's certainly true is that the stars out here are absolutely unbelievable. And can you imagine sitting around this fire pit in an evening time, having a chat with other people and just enjoying the peace of the Australian bush. Hey, you know, one of the things that's really tough here is actually working all of this stuff out. And so what I've done is I've put together a very simple worksheet for you that you can download. Details are right here and also in the comments down below. So download it, guys, work through it. I'm here to support you and nothing else. So that there is to help you out, work out whether or not you should be doing a single or a double degree.